Hello guys, welcome back. So today once again I'm going to play around with the new IOD holiday collection. So I'm going to start out with the old Christmas tree mold. I did go ahead and use some amazing casting resin on it, which can be purchased on Amazon. So I did pick up this frame at the thrift store. I'm going to go ahead and take this apart. I guess it's someone else's DIY. I'm just going to go ahead and undo this and we'll get started. So I'm going to go ahead and use the same board that came with the frame. I'm going to go ahead and trace it out on this scrapbook paper from HobbyLobby, and then I'm going to go ahead and use my adhesive spray and get it attached to my board. I'm going to go ahead and set that aside. I'm going to go ahead and start painting up my frame here. I'm going to use the color Truffle from Waverly Chalk Paint. I'm going to give it 2 coats. So I'm going to let that dry. Then I'm going to go in with this Folkart Gold paint. I'm going to do like a heavy dry brush effect over this truffle paint. It does look like I'm going pretty heavy with the gold, but I still want some of that brown peeking through. My end goal is to give this a very aged look, like those very ornate antique frames. This is a newer frame, so I'm just giving it the look. So then I'm going to go in with the Waverly Antique Wax just to tone down this gold and give it a more aged effect. So then here I'm going to go back to my board that was in my frame. So I'm going to go ahead and stamp my board here with these little snowflakes that came in one of their old releases. I believe it is retired. If I can get the name, I will list it below. I'm going to go ahead and stamp my board here and then we'll move on. So now I'm going to go ahead and paint my little tree here using this color from Apple Barrel. I really love this green. I don't like a very bright green. This is a more muted green, I guess you can say. I'm going to go ahead and paint it up, and then I'm going to add another color. I believe it's called Kelly Green, and that is just to give the little tree here a little bit dimension. So here I'm just going to go back and forth with the 2 greens, not letting each coat dry in between, just kind of switching back and forth. Then using the color Truffle, I'm going to go ahead and paint up my little stem here. Also, the stems that are shown in between the branches, I'm going to bring those out a bit as well. So I wanted to do a little sparkle and shine on my tree here, but I didn't want to use glitter, so I'm going to use these little stones that I picked up at Walmart. I'm going to go ahead and glue them on with this glue also picked up at Walmart. So these are very tiny. I'm going to use some tweezers and then kind of just dip them in the glue and just attach them randomly in little places of the tree. Then using some hot glue, I'm going to go ahead and attach this to my frame here. So I really loved how this came out. The little stones give it more of a very subtle sparkle, which I love. And then I'm not going to have the fallout of all the glitter everywhere. So in the end, I really loved how this came out. Let me know what you think. So I created another tree with that same old Christmas tree mold. I'm painting it the same color as the previous tree. The color is English Ivy Green. So I am going to go ahead and paint the back of this tree. My idea is to set it in the center of a wreath. So once the green has dried, I'm going to go in with this gold from Folkart, and I'm just going to dry brush it over the green. So I do want to set my tree in the center of the wreath, but I need to figure out how to get it to stand up in the center there. I started with putting this wood dowel into the middle of my wreath here just so I can give the tree something to stick to. So I'm going to stick my tree down as far as I can without breaking the little stem at the bottom. I'm going to add some hot glue to the back of this and let it dry. So this turns out not being enough to keep my tree sturdy. So what I'm going to do is use this little tool here. I'm going to make 2 little holes at the bottom of my tree here just so I can stick some floral wire through there just to give it a little bit more stability. So had I thought of this beforehand, I probably would have used a drill to make my holes before attaching it to my wreath here. So I did end up putting some little stones on this one as well. I think I might add some lights to it later on. This is mine, so if I decide to change it, I will post it. In the end, I really do love how this came out. Next up here, I'm going to go ahead and create some little ornaments using the ginger and spice mold from IOD. I'm going to go ahead and use these acrylics that I picked up at Hobby Lobby. I am going to be decoupaging these, so I'm going to start out with giving them 2 coats of white just to have a good base for my tissue paper. So I'm going to go ahead and use this striped tissue paper. I think I picked it up at either Dollar Tree or in a big pack at Ross last year. So I'm going to start with a thin layer of Mod Podge. My paintbrush did have some black on it. That's why you see the black come out. But that doesn't end up showing in the end. So I'm going to go ahead and place my tissue paper right over this and give it some light taps to try and get out some of the wrinkles. Then I'm going to go ahead and set those aside to dry. And I'm going to paint my little molds here with the color Truffle. And then I'm going to let that fully dry. Then right over that, I'm going to go in again with this color gold from Folkart and give them a really heavy dry brush. So to paint in the little eyes on these was a little bit tricky. I was unsure if to do all white background with the black dot or black dot with a white. I ended up going with the black background with a white dot. I feel like the white looked kind of creepy, so I went with the black. And just to bring out some of their detail, I do go on with a small brush and paint in some of the little buttons and the little details they have. So just to finish up my circles here, I'm going to go ahead and sand off the excess tissue and then do the little end details, glue them onto my little circles here, and then we'll be all done. Next, I picked up this little metal frame from the thrift store. The little gold paper paint that was on it was flaking off, so I went ahead and took off the rest of it, and then I give it a coat of gold with some rub and buff. So this little frame also came with these little ornate pieces for the corners, which did fall off, so I ended up gluing them back on with the Gorilla clear glue, and they seem to hold up well. So I'm going to go ahead and use a transfer out of the Fairy Mary transfer book. I'm going to go ahead and transfer it over to a piece of cardstock. And here you see me burnishing it with the same transfer sheet that came with the transfer. So as you can see here, I did stamp it with a little stamp I had that said Merry Christmas, but it came out a little bit blurry. So I'm going to go ahead and use this little Santa that I picked up in a pack from Hobby Lobby, and I go ahead and attach it over that just to cover that up. So I do add some distress oxide to my edges and add a little bow to the back of the frame, and then I'm all done. And for my last DIY, I'm going to use this board that I picked up at Hobby Lobby on clearance earlier in the year. I did print out a stencil that I'm also going to be using, and I'm going to be using these 2 little guys from the Ginger and Spice mold. So to start off, I'm going to use the Waverly Antique Wax and just stain my board here. So basically just going to brush it on and wipe it right off just like stain. And as soon as that dries, I'm going to use some Waverly Snow White chalk paint and just give it a light dry brush right over that. Here you can go as light or as heavy as you like. So to create this look here, I'm basically going to dip my paintbrush into the paint, and I'm going to offload all the excess paint. So when creating this look, I don't go in very heavy-handed. I like a very blended look. I don't like to see the starting points and the ending points of my brush. So I try and go in very lightly with my brush. So I am going to be stenciling on a stencil that I cut out with my Cricut machine. Now, I know not everybody has a Cricut machine, but I did look some up on Amazon and there's plenty of choices on there. And it's probably easier than transferring over like I did here. I'm using a clear sheet just to transfer over my stencil. Then here, just to stencil on the words, I'm going to use a makeup sponge. I'm offloading as much paint from my sponge just so I don't get any bleed through. So I'm going to go ahead and start painting my little molds here. I did use 2 colors from HobbyLobby. I will list the colors down below. I did mix equal parts. I'm not sure if this is quite a gingerbread color, but I think it looks cute. I'm going to start painting in the little details with some white chalk paint as well. So next up, I'm going to put some hot glue behind them and I'm going to go ahead and attach them to my sign. So I will be putting a coat of clear spray paint to all my projects today. I want to thank you guys so much for being here. I hope I inspired you to create something for the upcoming season. Follow me on all my other socials. I'm on TikTok and Instagram. And if you like what you see here, please subscribe and follow for more, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.